Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is the latest adaptation in the Scott Pilgrim universe. Although entertaining and fun and just absolutely stunning, unfortunately it falls short in a lot of ways, hindering it from what should have become an instant classic. However, for now, I'll talk about the positives.
The girl of my dreams?
It's time to wake up, dude.
The animation is absolutely fantastic. It's fluid, dynamic, every shot is absolutely beautiful. The work the animators put into this is nothing more than masterful. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is a piece of art. It is art in motion. It is truly stunning in every way, shape, and form.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
In terms of the voice acting, all of the actors from the previous Scott Pilgrim movie have returned to reprise their roles, and I have to say they're absolutely amazing. Every line of dialogue is well acted and delivered beautifully, and I enjoyed how natural it felt to listen to them speak. A lot of time dialogue can feel as if it's a bit forced, unnatural, but instead what we get here is the actors truly putting in some of their best performances. This show's voice work is nothing short of masterful, borderline perfect.
What's with the X, anyway?
Oh, this? Well, obviously one of us went to Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, and one of us did not.
Is that a Sonic thing?
Is it Sonic? No.
When it comes to the character, each character is very charismatic, again, helped by the excellent performance from the cast. Each character has their own unique flair that helps them stand out, and I really enjoyed how each character bounced off of each other. There really is a lot to love here. The characters are funny, they're all distinct in their own unique way, they're lovable, they're genuinely just fun to watch, and I loved every bit of them on screen.
I am 16 kinds of pumped to see Sex Bomb tonight. That's how it goes. I feel so excited I might actually pass out.
So side note, one thing that definitely surprised me was how much adult humor was in this. Now, I do remember the old Scott Pilgrim having a lot of swearing and adult humor here and there, but I don't remember it being as prevalent as it is in this series. Now, it has been a while since I watched the movie, so I could just be misremembering, but this series is very, very adult, for a lack of a better word. Now, with all the positives, I'm going to get onto some negatives. Although I enjoyed a lot of the voice work, there were lines where you could tell the writers were putting in a lot of their political opinions and a lot of their political leanings. And maybe it's because I've become a lot more hyperly aware when politics are being pushed in my media, and not everyone will feel as strongly as I do about this topic, but this just automatically leaves a very bitter taste in my mouth. A lot of these lines would play into the whole cultural war happening online right now, and I have to say this show unfortunately adds nothing positive to that conversation. If anything, it's reductive, cringy at best, politically charged at worst. Now, the main reason I don't enjoy when writers put their politics in media is because these never go well. Whenever these companies take a strong political stance, it always divides the audience rather than unite it. I'm not saying political discussion shouldn't be in media, but what I am saying there's a time and place for it. And if the media that is being consumed does not contain any political themes, then they should not include any political messaging. That's just the long and short of it for me. But again, not everyone will feel as strongly as I do about this. It's just that I've been seeing this so much and so often in so many different forms of media. It's starting to really annoy me the more and more I see it. One of the biggest detractors that I have to give to the show, and I'm going to be extremely unapologetic about this because I think this is extremely deceptive, I think it's disgusting, and it's just absolutely abhorrent behavior on account of the studio and Netflix itself. A lot of the marketing led me to believe that this series was going to be an anime adaptation of the movie and not a completely new story. So if you were unaware, this story is not the movie. It is its own unique story. And I don't have any issue with this series having a whole new story. However, I do have a problem when it's marketed as an adaptation, not a unique story. This type of marketing is extremely deceptive and unacceptable. The viewer uses a trailer as a means to assess whether or not the product being advertised is something that they wish to spend their time on, and if the advertising completely misleads them, then this is nothing more than false marketing. Now, the reasoning why they did this is pretty obvious, because if they advertise this as a new story, then no one would have watched it, or not as many people would have been interested. The reason they marketed it this way is that they wanted to get a lot of people who watched the movie to come watch the series, and they wanted to get a lot of people that were just general Scott Pilgrim fans to also come watch the movie, along with people that were just interested in general. I don't like this. I'm sorry, but I do not like it when a product blatantly lies to my face. I'm sorry, but it's disgusting and generally just leaves a negative opinion of the show in my mind. But that's just me. I'm being extremely unapologetic about this because I think this practice needs to end. It's pathetic and I hate it. But that's just me. Now, in terms of the actual story being told, I did find the direction they went in interesting, but unfortunately, I feel falls flat in a lot of areas. Although there is still a lot of fun to be had, with enjoyable characters and beautiful animation, the main area that falls apart is the story. There are some bright spots here and there, but unfortunately, the story left a lot to be desired. Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to talk about this, and now I don't consider it a major spoiler, but in order for you to fully grasp the series, if you want to watch it or not, I have to talk about it. So for the majority of the show, Scott Pilgrim is not in it. Instead, what they do, they take Ramona Flowers and she takes up the role as the main protagonist. And although she is an extremely charming character and has an easily likable charisma to her, she never really felt right in the lead, and it always stands out how empty a lot of the season feels without Scott there. Don't get me wrong, the series still works without Scott, but it never feels as good as it does when Scott is there. For the majority of the season, it feels empty, it feels plain, and it feels like there's so much potential that was just wasted. There's still a lot to love here, and I'd recommend it for anyone who's just looking for a fun time. But there is so little to no substance to the show to keep you wanting to watch it in terms of its narrative, and the decision to replace Scott only stands to hamper the potential of the show. In the end, I'm gonna have to give the show a Knives Cho steals every single scene she is in out of 10. Seriously, she is so precious. Now, spoilers, boys. We're going to get onto the spoiler section. If you haven't seen the show, if you're not interested in seeing spoilers, this is your time to leave. I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think. But for the rest of us, let's continue. So in the first episode, instead of Scott Pilgrim winning the fight against the first evil X, he instead loses. And we, the audience, are led to believe that Scott is now dead. So in later episodes, Ramona Flower finds out that Scott actually isn't dead, but instead is just missing. So Ramona goes on a quest to uncover the secret of Scott's disappearance, and along the way she interrogates all of her exes, believing them to be the main culprits. There is a lot of fun to be had here, with Ramona interacting with her exes and having to resolve issues in her past with them, some moments even being quite emotional. But for as good as all this is, for a large percentage of the show, the episodes feel directionless and aimless. Ramona investigating her exes never really felt like we were getting anywhere. Episode 2 to 7 felt largely like filler. Instead of it feeling as if the narrative is building episode to episode, instead, most of the episodes felt very episodic, and half the time you even forgot that Ramona was even looking for Scott until she mentions the fact that she's looking for Scott. Although these episodes are fun, they never really grabbed my attention and felt like required viewing. Instead, I felt nothing for these episodes. Apart from giving me a good chuckle here and there, I felt very little to nothing for a lot of what was going on screen.
Boring.
Now, one of the biggest attractors I feel that really hinders a lot of the story progression is Ramona herself. Unfortunately, I don't think she works that well as a main protagonist. She's lacking a lot of charismatic charm that Scott had that made you enjoy his character in the first episode. She's not a bad character by any means, but her type of character doesn't really work so well on her own, but instead works really well when she's bouncing off of Scott's personality. I feel what also hampered a lot of Ramona's character is the fact that almost every other character had more personality and more of an interesting story than her. Although I enjoyed what they tried to do with this character, I just don't think this direction works well. Ramona's laid-back personality and mostly deadpan delivery is enjoyable, but as a main character she falls flat as there's very little that she adds to the story that makes her interesting, and as a result, the viewer's interest isn't there either. Scott being missing for the majority of this season is extremely noticeable. In the first episode, he leaves a very strong impression as a character. His naivety and charismatic charm make you fall in love with this character. And once he leaves, that hole that he left behind is never replaced, and it's noticeable throughout the entire season. Scott has an extremely likable personality, an extremely easy character to grab onto and follow his story. But once he leaves, the story falls apart because it always feels like you're just waiting for him to return instead of enjoying Ramona's story for what it is, because Scott is just a better character. Now, the first and last episode were the best out of the bunch, and ironically, those were the ones where Scott was present. Although the entire show does come together in the end, With every episode finally coming together to build this climatic finish, it still doesn't negate how uninteresting most of the season felt. The season felt bloated and aimless for a large majority of its runtime. The flashy animation, although pretty, can't replace the value of a good story. And unfortunately, just because everything comes together in the end doesn't mean that anything that was shown was interesting. Although the original Scott Pilgrim story was simple, it was effective in engaging the viewer's attention and captivating their imagination. It was easy to follow, fun, and charming. All these aspects allow for the viewer to fully engage himself in the movie and immerse himself in the world and enjoy the movie for what it is. Once you look away from the flashy animation and really good character work, the show doesn't have much to stand on in terms of its story. For a lot of the series, it feels as if we're just going through the motions, and although we have an end goal, everything in between episode 1 to 8 just feels bland. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but nothing interesting. I'm not at all that engaged, and I don't think the show has much to stand on. The series ends up feeling like wasted potential. Although the argument could be made that a one-to-one adaptation of the movie would have been boring, this direction feels just as bland, if not worse. I felt nothing watching this. It felt as if things were happening on screen, but I didn't care for any of it. There was no tension, no intrigue, nothing. I wanna like this show because of how great the characters are, how good the voice work is, how fun some of the concepts are in the episodes. But when I look back on it, I feel nothing for the show. The show has all the hallmarks of an instant classic, but falls short of achieving greatness. But that's everything that I have to say. Thank you for listening to the video. Now, I know some people aren't going to agree with me. Some people are just going to say, oh, I had fun, so therefore it doesn't matter. As long as I enjoyed myself, it's whatever. And you know what? Power to you. If you enjoyed this show, I'm happy for you. And don't let my review hamper how you feel about this show. These are just my feelings. But please do let me know how you feel. Please leave a like, please comment, please share the video. I really appreciate if you subscribe. And I just want to thank you for watching this video. And thank you for giving me a moment of your time. I hope you're keeping well. I hope you're having a beautiful day. And I hope you're having an even better week. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.